Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Love Tips with Renee Piane and Clayton Norcross. We are coming from two separate places around the world to bring you tips that could really help anyone that's going through transitions in their relationships. I've been in the love industry for 29 years, and each week we are going to be talking about different topics from my book. So I want to welcome my co-host, Clayton Norcross. He is an international celebrity, and he travels all over the world, and he's a heartthrob for millions of people, especially women, from his role as Thorne in Bold and Beautiful and many movies and television shows. So we're back for week 2 of Love Tips, and we were talking about phases of love. So Clayton, I'm going to hand it over to you now so that you can share your story with all the people that are watching us who need our love advice, right? So why don't you give your situation so maybe people can relate?
Well, just briefly to orient our newcomers, I went through the shock phase recently of a breakup. And I was actually in a shock phase also when I first got together with my latest beloved. And I was coming out of a relationship that had kind of blown up in my face. I was contacting some old friends. I stumbled onto her quite by accident while I was working in Europe. And we got together, and it was volcanic. She was just coming out of a very difficult marriage. So both of us were kind of feeling great to feel, loved again and rescued. And that can oftentimes distract you, shall we say, from what you might otherwise be wiser about. Like, wait a minute, you're on the rebound, I'm on the rebound. Maybe we should take this really slow and really talk about how much we have to give each other. Or as Renee says in her book, do we still have love passengers already in our love vehicle? And there isn't a whole lot of room yet for a new passenger. And I love that analogy. So it's not that surprising all these months later, over a year later, that some of those poor decisions come back to roost and cause me a great deal of hurt. So if I can use my experience to help other people avoid this kind of pain, along with your wonderful technology from Get Real About Love, your wonderful book, then I'm all over it. And that's why I'm here with Renee.
Well, thank you, Clayton. I think we started to talk about your situation last week, and there's a lot of love phases in this book. Every single person on this planet is either breaking up, they're shaking up, or they're looking for love, right? So in the breakup phase, there's actually like kind of sub phases in that. People go through, like, some people can break up and just walk away. Other people still they'll be in shock for sometimes a year. When people call me when they're going through a situation like this, I always ask them, where are you in the game of love? Do you even know where you are?
And you're talking about what phase are you in, correct?
Yes. So these phases, last week we touched on it and we were talking about this, but most people don't realize that people are in different levels of shock when they break up. Some people are so excited that they're done with their partner that they're like, I'm ready to party.
Yeah, I've experienced that, in my marriage. When I was done, I was done.
Right.
But this one felt like, in many ways, the loss of, like when I lost my mother about 6 months ago, the shock was very much more powerful for me.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that in our very first video. So we decided that each week we would talk about different parts of my book. So sometimes when you break up, it's because the timing is off. So there was the breakup shock, there was the passenger remaining in your vehicle, which we spoke about, then the timing not being right. And there was so many times in my relationships, because I didn't get married until I was in my 40s. And here I was running speed dating events, speaking all over and helping people find love, and I hadn't found it myself. And I found that workaholics, a lot of us are not in the right time. Sometimes you'll meet somebody and they're building their businesses and the timing is just off. So some people, maybe even you if you're listening, they'll take it personally that it's you. Now I know, Clayton, you've been a worker, you travel. So tell us your part in that. How does that trigger you?
Well, I think what you're saying is very pertinent, Renee. I'm a bit of a workaholic in that I'm constantly running around the world. I've worked on 4 different continents as an actor, And now I am producing a program in Italy that will start in Italy, and our plan is to take it internationally to talk about the phenomena of destination weddings in one of the most romantic countries in the world, of course, Italy. So it dovetails right in with what we're talking about, and then to find yourself trapped in the very same kind of love explosion that would prevent a marriage.
Yeah.
You know, we've got in many countries of the world 65% divorce rates, and maybe 10-20% of the marriages that remain are anything like healthy. We don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
So the work that we're talking about, the love phases that you've written about, for starters, I think are critical for people to getting off on the right foot in their relationships. And had I been more objective about, wow, I'm still really hurting about, I've still got a love passenger in, and now I'm going to try to pull this lovely lady who I adore, and I love her very much, but is she really ready for what I need?
But most people they jump in, you know, in America. I mean, many people follow Hollywood, right? Television stars like yourself, to see what love is. The real truth is it's one of the most important decisions that you make in your life. So if you made the wrong choice the first time, you might have been 20 years old. I know, as an Italian, I'm 100% Italian. The only goal for my grandmother and my great-grandma, you get to marry to a nice boy and have a bunch of children, right? And then all of them were divorced. Most of them had husbands that were cheating. So my role modeling was a little screwed up, right? So
you had bad imprints.
I had imprints and then you don't even know what that is yet. Imprints come from dating people or watching your parents go through these phases. Breakups when you're a little girl, or your father running around because he wasn't really available for your mother, and your mother having pain, right? And then your mother tries to go out and date, and she's like, oh my God, I don't want to do this again. But if we could all examine our hearts, examine our phases of the people that are out there, you can say right now, so many men, when I was single, they would come and say, I'm going through a divorce. I want to go out with you. I said, I will be your coach, but I will not date you until you heal your heart. Most people don't have a place to heal their hearts. So Clayton, trust me. You trusted me, and I was so honored to help you. So what would you say you learned the most about this whole process?
Well, I learned primarily, I think, that once I made the sea change from any sort of blame directed at my loved one, that she didn't do this right, she didn't do that right. And those things occurred to me. You know, we had certain agreements that I didn't feel were observed. And I was kind of latched onto those in my male way of thinking. You know, we had a contract, doggone it. But when someone's in a very emotional stage from the shock phase, and still having that X in your love vehicle that's interfering with communication and projection and so on, you can't really be fully present, much less make agreements. So it's the wrong question to ask. The shift for me was I began to take responsibility. I put on my big boy pants and says, this is the third time in 10 years that I've created a long distance relationship, and it blew up in my face in a way where I finally realized more accurately, oh, this is not meeting my needs. Wait a minute, she warned me about this a year ago. Why am I surprised? So
Well,
I had to begin to take responsibility for what I had created, promoted, or allowed in my life, and stop blaming her in any way for the discomfort that I was having, the shock that you're talking about.
Well, the one thing that you said that was important was when people say, right now I'm really not available, but I want to have a lot of fun, and you think you're going to be the person to change that person with sex, romance, you know, trips and all that stuff, and guys, the men out there, they love to rescue women that are in that state. I meet so many high-powered men like yourself, businessmen that I coach all over the world, and they say she was so beautiful and I fell in love with her and she was in a big mess and I wanted to fix it, but she still wasn't open enough to give you that full heart. So when people in the world go out with half-healed hearts, then they get half-assed love. That's one of the things I say. And I used to do it. I used to rush into love. And now I don't, and I teach people about it. So I actually wrote a whole book about my story of not trusting in love, myself because of my cheating in my imprints of my family. And then, you know, when I looked at Clayton's phases and his pattern of meeting women that weren't really available, it really comes from a deep place. So each of you has to do what he did, which was examine it, right? Examine
Yeah,
it.
I mean, until you're willing to look inside and say, I've chosen these hurtful relationships. Who's the common denominator in all of those choices? So when we started exploring the love lineage, how did I find out about love? Who taught me about love? Who taught me who women are? You know, I learned a lot of it watching my mother, and I watched a lot of it interaction between my mother and father. My father was kind of a dry drunk, kind of a rager, and he was very emotionally unsafe. My mother was very safe. So typically I go to the feminine, and I have a very developed feminine side, though I'm not gay. I'm very straight because I developed a strong sexual attraction for the nurturing quality of the average woman. So when a woman suddenly is a liar or devious or two-faced in some way, I'm like in shock because they're so different, even though they're feminine, from my original training. So just like your cheating parents, your fathers, you know, maybe inured your attitude towards men, you know, and they've got to live down some of that junk before you can really open and be vulnerable to them. I had a similar experience with women. And my mother was gone a lot because she worked. So this whole feeling of being in a long distance relationship is sort of familiar, but it doesn't serve me. I keep trying to make a cake out of crumbs.
Well, that's really, really deep. I'm just so impressed that Clayton is so raw and real about this. And I know my book is really raw and real about my situation. So people can relate, right? I'm trying to help you to see that you're not alone in your, we're gonna have to wrap this up. Believe it or not, it's almost over for this week. But the blessing usually comes in your life when you can take a look at the woman or man in the mirror and how you ended up creating this through your role models of love. And that is what we are going to be talking about next week, are where you learned about love. Because if you really examine the family, say you've been married or you've been with somebody, if you look at how they were wired from their family and how you were wired from your family, if they don't match, sometimes it may not be a match. But guess what? It takes usually 3 to 6 months to a year to discover that. And once you're hooked in, like Clayton got, even though he was warned, he got hooked into the love, and then it ended up hurting and causing this circle of pain, which we are trying to help you get out of. So why don't you say some final words, and we're going to wrap it up so that we can come back next week to talk about the role models of love. So Clayton, now that you're on the other side of this heartbreak pain, what would you advise people to do now?
Well, I would say take responsibility for what you've created in your life. Get involved in a personal coaching session, or about, you know, at least read Renee's book and do the powerful exercises in there so you can begin the self-examination that's necessary, I believe, to avoid the love loops, the recreation and recycling of the same mistakes again and again. I don't want to suffer like that anymore. And it doesn't serve me to blame my partners. I need to choose more carefully.
Well, thank you. That's really great. I'm going to show them the book, or maybe you can show them your copy. He has written lots of notes and he's been doing blogs about it because he has a passion, like I do, for helping people to get real about love. So what the book does is make you look at yourself, look at the phases of love, the energy vibes you send, where you learned about love, and the vision that you want for your future. And we talk about sex, we talk about so many deep things that if you had done this work before you got married or you got into your next relationship, it might make you look at it a different way. So I am so blessed, Clayton, that you are sharing your heart. And I thank you for sharing this, because as you go to do beautiful wedding in Italy with Grace, your partner, your beautiful partner, we want to thank her because Italy shut down right now, right? So everybody has time to do work on their heart. And I'm getting calls all over the world. People going, I don't know what to do. I'm alone. I'm alone.
Well, they're trapped with loved ones too. So a lot of stuff is coming to the surface that if we have the presence of mind, we can really go to work on it. and be as transparent as we're capable of.
And isn't it interesting, before we wind up, I know we're going to be talking about role models of love, and it's interesting, and this will leave you with a thought, and we'd love to hear your thoughts, that each person in your family has a different experience of the role modeling of their love. So it'd be interesting if you do get a chance to read the book, you can kind of follow along the path that Clayton and I are going to take you on this adventure, tips to help you have extraordinary love. So Clayton, we're going to say goodbye to everybody, and they're going to be getting to see these shows every Saturday. So if you have a friend, I know you have lots of friends in Italy, so why don't you speak to them now and invite them to come join us.
Ciao a tutti, spero che vieni con noi per Love Tips. Ogni sabato sequenziale siamo qui, Renee e io, parlando di amore. Ciao a tutti.
Okay, so everybody, if you do buy this book on Amazon or can't get it, please get in touch with me. And if you do buy it, email me and I'll give you my email. And it comes with love vows. Only you can heal your own heart. It doesn't come from the outside. It comes from the inside. And I am blessing Clayton because he is exposing his raw, real feelings with the world, and I'm so grateful. So Clayton, thank you, and let's let people know that love is is available for all of us by getting real about love. So thanks for tuning in, and Clayton and I will see you again next Saturday.
Aloha.
Bye-bye. Talk to you soon. I thought that was good. What do you think? It was.
I thought it felt long. It felt like it went 12, 13 minutes.
13, 14 minutes.
Oh my goodness. Well, I saw you trying to wrap it up, but then you had more stuff to say. So how can this work for us? I thought it had to be a max 10 minutes.
It doesn't have to be. I think, I think that we talked about things that were, hold on.